Hey guys, welcome to Jerry's Live. As always, I'm your host, Amy Gardner-Dean. Now, we're going to have a brief disclaimer here. If you are not in the Southwest, or Southeast, excuse me, Southwest would be much less rainy than we are here. If you're in the Southeast, you may have some strong storms coming through like we do. Earlier today, we were really expecting we were not going to be doing the show, that we were going to have to put it off until tomorrow because we had no power. There was a transformer that was nearby that had blown. Businesses in huge grids in Raleigh were completely out of power. So it came back on and we got everything up and running and rebooted. So we're here now. However, big line of storms coming through due any minute. So in the event that we lose you, it's not by choice, it's by the power company's unfortunate happenstance. So if that does happen, just know we will not be probably popping back on like in the old days when we were filming with cell phones and sometimes things would bump in and out. We'll just be gone, and then we'll determine, you know, whether or not, depending on when the broadcast we are, whether we can try to make that up a different day. But just be forewarned, if you do lose us and you come back to the page, it may not be you, it's probably us. So, and if it gets loud, again, that's probably us too. So we've got
maybe a little bit of thunder.
Yes, you can hear thunder very loudly in here sometimes, and if it's really coming down, it's you can hear it on the roof as well. So just be forewarned.
It's slow.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we are on episode JL113. That's JL113. If you go to the jerrysartorama.com website and type that keyword in, JL113, it will pull up the list of supplies we're using today, which actually are very slim. Why is that? It's because this is kind of the get started in oil painting set for people who have not done oil painting in the past because they have issues with solvents, whether or not that's just, you know, animals in the house like I do with a bird, or whether it's respiratory problems, autoimmune problems, you just don't like the smell. These are water mixable oils, okay? So you can add water or water mixable mediums to it and forego the solvents, and then just wash your brushes with soap and water. So this is a set that, and this set isn't that they're not going to replace it. They are, but they're phasing this out, and it's on closeout. So it's a ridiculous price, $47.99. So for less than $50, you get all the paint you need. You get brushes. You get like 3 little kind of canvas printed panels. You get a wood. Let's just open it up and see. It's a very basic box, but it does have little feet, like bumper feet on the end. It's got this hardware that prevents it from like flopping over. It's got hinges. This would be in it, but I went ahead and put it on for your kind of canvas tray there. You can adjust this to any height and then tighten the wing nuts down. It's a really cute little wood pallet, right? There were multiple panels. I've used one of them. A palette knife, full-size palette knife. 3 shorter, I'll go ahead and take these out, hog bristle brushes, so they're designed to be trimmed down to actually fit in the easel box. I put in 2 try-it sets because the try-it sets are $125. So for that, you get 2 very fine synthetic like sable brushes, and then 2 different sized hog bristle brushes that are the Pro Strokes, but they still fit in the box, okay? So there's no need to fear that they won't fit in there. So for $250, you get 4 more brushes. And then it comes with all of the paint. So we've got, as I throw it on the ground, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tubes of paint. So we've got basically all the colors that you would need to mix other colors, plus white. There is not a black, but it's got a burnt umber and then an ultramarine where you can make a chromatic black, okay? So all that for $47.99. Now it's something where they will be coming up with just a different set box. Manufacturers do this all the time. So you can get it on closeout for that price. You would not need anything else other than a water cup, and then possibly the linseed oil that's modified for use with Water-Mixable, and maybe a pallet cup, which I put pallet cups on there. If you put two, you've got one for water to thin with and one for your Water-Mixable. These are a smaller size, so they're closing them out, but it's the perfect size for a travel set. You don't want one larger than this because you won't use all the stuff and then you'll just be dumping it out, right? So it's a great little set. It comes in this box. So for less than 65 bucks, even with the added oil and the other stuff, you can be painting in oils to either start out or just buy yourself a little travel set. This would be perfect for sitting at your desk and painting at lunch, in the break room, on a picnic table, outside, on a train for a commute. If there's a table, perfect. This set. It's not going to bother anybody with solvents and all that, and you'll get some painting time in, okay? So, you can see I jostled the palette just a little bit on the way in. So let's set this up to go ahead and give it a go. Now, Katie, I'm going to have you help me with the angle because I don't know what's going to work really well with that side camera. So if you can check for me, I want it to be upright enough where people can see it pretty well. Is that going to be best, do you think? Is that good? I can slide it back. Now that just pushes it further out of the view, doesn't it?
Slide it.
When we turn it this way a little bit?
Yeah, can you slide it? Can you slide over that way a little bit?
If I slide it that way, it starts going out of the picture frame because it gets...
And then just like pull it closer towards you,
Okay.
but slide it towards the water bucket over there.
Oh, like this, you're saying.
Yeah, so it just makes it a little smaller to stay
Okay.
in frame.
All right. Is that good? I just can't turn it much further being left-handed. All right.
Hey,
Okay.
Can you use regular linseed before we get started? That's the first question I got.
Okay, so Water-Mixable Oils, we've done multiple episodes on it, and if you're new to our shows, at the beginning of the show where we've got the description for the actual episode that we've got, and the girls put it in the notes and pin it at the top, there is two lists that we've got. One is the chronological of all of the episodes that we've done, so 112 episodes are on there. The other one is actually separated into the different topics, okay? We've done multiple ones on Water-Mixable Oils at this point. So if this is something that's new to you, I urge you to go back and look at those just to learn about it. Maybe before you make the purchase. I think we did one episode and we talked about all the brands even that do water mixables. But the linseed oil is going to need to be modified, okay? You could use it, but then that means that you're probably going to have to use some solvents to get that out, which the point of the water mixables is that you're not using those solvents. Plus, adding that in where you're putting more fat in that's not modified, because the water mixable oils are either modified oil where it's modified at the actual kind of level in the oil where it's been changed in the molecules where you can add that water. This rain is like gently lulling me to like
I know.
Sleepy Town, so it's just that kind of very nice.
White noise rain.
Yes, it is. It's horrible. So it's going to either be modified in the oil itself, or it's going to be an additive that's a surfactant that's added to paint, okay? So either way, that paint's already been modified to mix with water. You want to add other things that have been modified to mix with water. All of the brands that make water-mixable oils make a water-mixable linseed oil, or it's called a modified linseed oil. It's not any more money to just get that versus a traditional linseed oil. I know you might already have linseed oil and you want to use that, but you may need to use mineral spirits to get it out of those brushes. So just consider that, okay? All right, so we've got a couple of different pictures here, and they're pictures that Tina has Tina sends me pictures every day of landscapes around the farm and just all sorts of cool stuff. So somebody was posting something in our Jerry's Live group earlier this week, and they were talking about finding the time to work and how like all those little things can get in your way, which is why I was talking about sets like this where you've got all the materials that you need to actually be working wherever you go. It's portable, it's easy to use. You can get back that little bit of time. Let's say the kids want to watch a movie, or you've got kids that are too small to just leave in a room by themselves when they're watching Baby Shark or whatever children watch
start that.
nowadays.
Please don't.
I've heard it from Frida's side there, and it sounds like a horrible, horrible thing. So glad I had the Teletubbies, so
It
my
has
gift.
become our nightly lullaby.
Yeah, my gift to you is Baby Shark, so you don't have the Nunu and Lala and
Don't sing it.
all that. So, so you can have this in the room with you on a TV tray or something while the kids watch TV, and you can actually be painting because it will fit there, right? It's time that you can get back your art stuff. And that was a really interesting conversation. Lots of people were chiming in, talking about different things that you can do to try to fit art into your day. And that's something that I would even encourage you guys while you're watching this demo to discuss amongst yourselves in the chat. Things that you do that where maybe it's something other people have never thought of, just to get some time back for yourself to be able to work. So that's what we're going to be doing. And Tina sends me these just really beautiful pictures, and I've always wanted to be a landscape painter, but never taken the time because I'm as bad as everybody else about it. And I've got a family, and it's not something that you can just be like, sorry, family, do the laundry yourself. Or, I mean, you could. You know it would never be done.
Would never be done.
Or
We're
right.
all ruined.
Right. We all know that too. Yes, yes.
All of a sudden, all your whites are pink.
Yes, yes. I have thanked my oldest son for that before. So it's a storm and it's coming. Not just Baby Shark, Frida. So find time to do your art wherever you can. So this is why sets like this are perfect. And that's why this deal, when I saw that it was discounted, was just like the perfect thing to still fit in a budget, but be able to work with, okay? So we've got a really pretty hayfield that's been mowed that they've not gone around and raked the hay up. That I really like this one. But then I really like this little cow that she sends me pictures of every day named Mule. So while I get the stuff ready, do you want them to vote on which? I'm going to put some fresh paint out because this paint seems a little gooey from using it a couple days ago.
I couldn't see the
Cow with the landscape. Okay, here. Okay, so there's the cow. I can't. Is there an above one?
No,
Oh, I
just
guess
hold
it
them
goes
forward.
right into the box, huh?
Just hold them forward.
Okay, so we've
Face
got
towards
cow. Oh, sorry.
You just have to hold them up because the other one you held it, there you go. When you held it up, it was behind
Cow
the
in this pretty field. So we're just going to talk about just doing a study. That sometimes learning painting speed is just doing studies. It's just getting in there and being creative. You can go back and do a finished one later. So we've got hayfield or mule the cow. Okay? Talk amongst yourselves. You have coffee, you'll talk. All right. While I clean this off real quick. Well, the good thing is that this paint will, I mean, in 2 days has reasonably been drying. I guess I put it on the pallet on Saturday. So that's a good thing. Everybody that does oils, that people always want in a dry time, the Water-Mixable actually will tack up quite a bit sooner than your regular oil paints, because goodness knows with the humidity here, oil paints would be open. I've got a commission that I've not been able to get back to because it's still tacky. And I don't think I've painted on it for a month. Is there any consensus yet, ladies?
Still counting.
Still counting, all
Someone said you should just put the cow in the field.
right. I just put like a little brown dot over there.
I think. Well, the cow was
Landscape is
winning.
ahead by 1
For
on
you?
YouTube.
Okay.
The cow was winning, and now landscape is coming up.
Okay.
But
Well.
I've gotten another vote for you to add the cow to the landscape.
All right, okay, I'll give you a minute more while I put the paint on the, put some medium out for myself. Oops. Okay, not wearing reading glasses when you put it on there and can't see is a preventable thing. Okay, so that question that they posted last week got me thinking, right? So I actually combined bird time with working on work for this, getting used to the colors in this set, and the bird kept hiding behind the box and peeking around like with her little comb like, hi, surprise. I was very afraid she was going to try to do something to the paint because she was very interested in the caps, but
I was like, what you doing?
yeah, then she decided that one of the sunflower pictures I was using was a little bit too long and she should trim it up. So that gave her good time to play, and it gave me time to where she was out of her cage and got to socialize and have fun. And normally would not have done that because I would have thought she would have tried to eat the paint or something. She was very curious about it going on the palette. All right, where are we at?
I think Cal
No.
might come back.
The cow's making.
Still landscape for me.
The cow's making a comeback. All right. Which picture is easier to see, Katie? If it's that close, we'll go with that. All right. Landscape. All right. We'll do the landscape then. Sorry, my cow peeps. I feel ya. I'm right there with you. I would much rather, which is probably why I've not worked on landscapes, even though I want to, because
You don't like them.
no, I like them. I just an animal so much. What? You
It's
what?
so creepy. I liked whatever.
What'd she say?
I said I like things with eyes.
Well, I'm really good at animals and I can make them really fast, right? So it's always easier to go with the easier, right? So, all right. Now, I know people have said in the past, why are you putting so much paint out? Oh my God, you're wasting it. It's okay. We work at an art supply company and we have more. Plus, I don't want to have to keep stopping as I'm doing the demo, right? To keep loading. So it's really all right. Plus, you'll see as I go along, I'm always dipping my brush in here or there for colors, so. Alrighty.
Well, and it stays around the studio too.
Yeah, yes.
As long as it doesn't get
It's-
dried, it gets used again.
It's gonna be used, not to worry. Okay. All right. So I've got all my colors out here. If you want to turn on that side thing, we need to figure out, I guess, where this picture needs to be so they can see it in reference to. And I want to make sure they can see the palette. All right, I can put that into there. Like right here. Can they see that? Tilt this back just a little bit.
Unfortunately, they can see it. No, I almost need to put it on a little easel next to it.
There's a Soho easel over there on the second shelf down, third shelf, or second shelf down, like right about eye level, Frida. If we can put that on here next to it.
That one?
It'll go down low.
I just don't know if it'll get close enough.
Okay, how was our shot from the side here?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay,
That'll work.
this will help since it's kind of, it doesn't have a backing board on it. You know what? Let me do this. All right, and we apologize that this isn't already sorted out, but we didn't get power until right before the show, so we got time to reboot all this stuff, and even just to get on, we didn't have lights to even see to set up on the set. So, all right, is that good? Push it back some. Push this back some. All right, that worked. Is that good?
That'll work.
All right, good. And you can kind of see the pallet as well. I can push this back some. So the pallet can push up. There we go. Yay. All right. Is that all good, everybody?
Yeah, Will's been adjusting just a little bit more.
Okay. Okay. And I can kind of stand to the side. I'm going to put my water over here since it'll be a little bit easier for me to.
Landscape, so.
Huh?
Okay.
Oh,
Perfect.
yeah.
Good.
Okay, perfect. Yes. All right.
We set it up for portrait.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's all right. It's all good. It's all good. All right.
That's perfect.
So we are going to just go ahead and get started. I'm going to use one of these slightly smaller brushes just to be able to kind of get a sketch on here. I'm going to thin it down with some water, right? Now, if we had more time, I would say this would be very easy to just, we're going to kind of knock this off right about here. Okay, guys? Just because I don't want this to be so far down. So I'm going to move this up here. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to. Too fidgety. These are like a paper-covered canvas print. Almost like a nice heavy mat board, so it works really well for thinning the paint for this. Now this Viridian has got to be a, it's phthalo green. I was telling Frida in the car when we went to get our coffee that I was going to have to remind myself to use small amounts because it is not Viridian, it is phthalo green, and it's got a wallop of a punch. So just be aware of that with sets where there's pre-made greens. See, especially if it's a darker green, make sure it's not phthalo, or I mean, it's fine to have phthalo, but plan accordingly. You do not want.
That's why we swatch everything.
Yes, yes, it is. All right.
Less is more.
Yes. If we say how this is going to change, I'm just getting a line here. We say what titanium white punches you in the face. Well, I think that phthalo punches you in the groin. it's just that much stronger. It plays really dirty. What, don't you think, Katie? I mean, in all honesty, that is what it does.
It'll get you.
It is what it does. Okay, so I've got my little.
It's a beautiful color, but man.
Yeah, you just have to be very,
Prepared.
yes, very ready to contend with it. Okay, so this is kind of our little area here that's off where that hay is getting plowed down. I think I'm going to actually switch to the sable brush so it's a little more of a drawn line.
While you're laying that in,
Yes.
do you feel like these water mixable oils cover and feel comparable to traditional oils, or what's your impression of the differences?
Okay, so every brand is different, but I will say that what I've noticed is the biggest difference across almost all of the brands. Probably Hold Mine is the one exception, and we did talk about this on the Water Mixable Oil show where we went over all of the brands. Is the surfactant makes them sticky. It makes them just that little bit sticky in comparison where it's not as fluid and smooth because it's a surfactant. And what is a surfactant? It's a detergent, right? So just like when you're putting your laundry soap in the laundry and you accidentally dump a little on your hand or whatever, it takes some rinsing it off, right, to get it off of there. So it's the same kind of thing, is that it's just has that little bit of stickiness to it. Okay, so got kind of our road in there. I am not happy with where this needs to be lower.
The pallet cup that you've got attached
Yes.
there, is that just water in there?
No, it's some of the linseed, modified linseed oil, which I'm dipping it over here in water for most of this, but that's a modified linseed oil. Okay, so which I'm going to add, you want to add that later as you're kind of working along, either where you want to glaze something but still want some good body and adhesion to it, or where you're wanting to paint fatter than the paint itself. All right. All right, so clouds. We do need those clouds in there. See, that blue is extremely bright, so we're gonna knock that down a little bit too. All right, so the clouds, we're gonna move them up higher. This is kind of the back of those mountains, so we're gonna move our clouds up even higher. So this is gonna be, I don't want it green. Now this is just a sketch, so I'm gonna change just a little bit as we go. Doesn't matter that it's kind of linear or whatever, because we'll be putting some bigger swatches of paint over it. I'm just kind of trying to see leave myself some visual notes, right?
Do you think a fast drying medium would help in this situation, or do you think it doesn't matter?
With this kind of board, I wouldn't use it because it's very absorbent, and the fast drying can actually start tacking up your paint while you're working in less than an hour. When it's really humid, you really don't need it. It's areas that where you know that your paint tends to stay open a long time that you want that fast drying medium, because really all you're doing with that is just, it's a way to paint thicker but have it dry faster instead of add water. So like maybe if you're painting more impasto or something like that, that would be a good choice, but we're not gonna use that today. It's this dries pretty quick, and I don't want to add that extra kind of weightiness to it. You can use linseed oil and still layer pretty easily. You just have to kind of get used to doing it, okay? So that's a good question though. Okay. All right, so we've got kind of just a very rough sketch on there. Now we just need to start adding some color. We've got the pictures, yeah, the picture looks like it's pretty well in there. All right, everybody can see okay. Gonna do this. There we go. I think that sits a little bit better. And then they can see this edge slightly better, don't you think?
Can you do
There.
a quick refresher on if the fat over lean rule applies?
It's oil, so fat over lean still is going to apply. Fat over lean is an oil painting thing. The more close to the surface, the more oil you're going to add if you're not sitting down and painting in just a couple day sessions, right? The closer to the actual substrate is where you're going to be adding things with less oil, like if you're painting with traditional oils, something that has turpentine or mineral spirits or liquid, you're gonna make it leaner. So more quick drying stuff with less oil to actually thin that paint. You can still use paintings just doing paint. If it's really confusing to you, it's perfectly okay. Let's go with a bigger brush. Let's go ahead and start the sky. So yes, still applies regardless. All right, so that blue is really, really bright, but we can see that this is not, this is a lot bolder. This is almost a little more violet-y. So we're gonna pull some of this out, add a little bit of white and a little bit of this. I think this is ultramarine, yeah. See how that's a little bit closer? Still need to go knock that off with that a little bit. I'm gonna add just a touch of water to make this a little bit more paintable. All right. The one bad thing about me working really scrubby is it doesn't always work real well with no top canvas holder. Now when I'm adding water, I'm just touching it in there. I'm not adding, like, thinning it way down. You can see the paint's still pretty opaque. Even with water mixable oils, you don't want to thin that too much because it can affect the adhesion and then the layers gripping onto each other as you're building color. So just touching that. And something to consider, the more water you add, the lighter that paint is going to appear, because the surfactant actually foams up a little bit and has that kind of milky whiteness to it. So that will dry clear, but sometimes it can be confusing when you're getting ready to lay down some paint, when all of a sudden you've got, you know, the color that you're using starts kind of looking like it's foaming up and it's getting way lighter. Okay, so just be aware of that. If you've not used water mixable oils, that's fine. Don't keep going darker thinking that, okay, I've just added too much white. It's merely that surfactant in your paint. And if you add too much water, you're going to know pretty quick, because you'll start getting, with Lucas, you'll start getting kind of a grainy appearance to your paint, where you can see the pigment and the oil like separating too much. So you definitely need to add more paint in that instance. Don't just figure you can kind of keep on going, add some more paint, or you're going to have problems with your adhesion of layers, just like if you add too much mineral spirits or solvents with traditional oils, you can have that same problem, or they won't bond well together. Okay, so these clouds go all the way to the surface. Back here at the bottom, it's actually mountains in the background, so, but they're a little bit grayer. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this brown and a little bit of that blue, the darker ultramarine. So it's kind of knocked some of the heat out of that color. And I'm going to add some white to gray it down. Now I'm using kind of a big brush for this, but I can go back in and fix anything that I don't like the looks of.
Carolyn Reinbarger is asking if you can use cold wax with these.
You should, but then the problem is you're putting mineral spirits. Cold wax has mineral spirits in it, right? So then you're getting to a point of where you may have problems getting it back out of the brush really easily, especially with it being a wax. You would want to experiment with it and how easy it is to get out of there. But I'm guessing if she uses cold wax, she probably does use solvents. It's okay to use these, to clean these out of their brushes with solvents. That's not a problem. The issue is that you don't have to, right? Especially if you have issues. Don't do it because you can, do it because you would want to.
Part of the point of using a water mixable oil is so that you don't have to use solvents.
Yes.
People like me, for example, who get headaches being within 10 feet of an open bottle.
Right. Right. With that, you could just use regular oils, you know. If you don't mind the solvents, why bother with the water mixables? Because, you know, the big issue is that if you're going to start working with water mixables, you really more need water mixables for everything, right? So, I mean, you can use up to a certain percentage of traditional oils, but it starts getting the brushes gummy, and anytime you go to change paint colors, you're really actually going to have to wash that brush out with soap, right? Because you can't get the pigment out with just the water when you're adding other, you know, traditional oils in with it. So you're kind of taking the purpose and that it was meant for and throwing it on the ground at that point. So it, you know, if you're going to work in both oil and this, it may be just easier and more effective than trying to remember what's the percentage of this and how much have I used of this, and I've got to keep, you know, 45 minutes of my painting time has been stopping and washing my brushes each time. You know, that can start to be kind of irritating. So I say pick one and go. I mean, the beauty of this is if you don't already paint in oils, it's a whole lot of less things that you're going to need to get started in oils, right? You don't have those extra solvents. You don't have all of this and that, and it cleans up pretty easy. You're not going to need a solvent container. You're not going to need, you know, you can just use a regular water cup. Okay, I'm just kind of trying to lighten this a little bit, coming up by the clouds, because this is, and I'm putting oil in it, so it's easier for me to kind of scumble this back and forth. I can already feel that the other stuff is soaked into the first layer, so kind of coming back up into this, I'm going to have to add some more oil to I mean, and if you're new to water-mixable oils and you're not sure what brand you want to buy, or you have used some water-mixable oils, you even have some water-mixable oils, but you really don't know anything about other brands, the show that we did do where it's about shows all the brands, we go into even some paintings done with, it's the same painting of a little coffee cup with each of the brands, so you can kind of see the color differences and see the kind of application differences, and I was able to say, okay, this feels different than that, feels different than that. So it'll give you some, you know, decent feedback on that. All right, so I've got that in. That can get toned down at any time. Right now, I just need to keep working. So I'm going to start coming into kind of where my hayfield is. Now, yellow ochre is really bright compared to that hayfield. That hayfield's got a little bit of, I'm going to put a touch of ultramarine in that and see what that looks like, and then a little bit of white to kind of try to tone that down a little bit. That's closer to the same value. Okay, so I'm just going to come in for now.
Hey, Linda just had a great idea. Can you post that picture in the group, and then maybe they can show off their versions of it?
Oh, sure.
I love it when they do that.
Me too.
I will be happy to.
Inky Spectre would like to know, how do you clean a wooden pallet from your, after your
Okay,
water-mixable
so
oils? Carefully.
Unfortunately, the best way to do it is, well, with water mixables, the best thing you could do, number one, is try to get it off as soon as possible when you're done painting, because anytime with the oil put into it, it's not quite as, it sits on top. This palette, I will say, okay, reverse a little bit. It's going to depend on your palette. A lot of palettes, like the New Wave palettes, are sealed. Okay, they're sealed with a, you know, a type of varnish that's going to allow them to be pretty easily cleaned up. This is plywood that's been sanded really nicely. It was probably oiled at one time, but the oil has dried. So it's not going to clean off very easily. So wiping colors off when you're done using them is really smart if you can, because if you're adding a lot of water, it's going to absorb in. Otherwise, you may need to actually take some mineral spirits on a rag and clean it off, or solvents to clean it off. Unfortunately, that's what I use the spike lavender or the Chelsea brush cleaner to put on palettes to clean them off. But if you've got any sort of autoimmune problems, or you've got asthma or things like that, it's probably going to be really strong for you. So good palette maintenance when you're painting, done with your painting session, can go a long way to making it a lot easier to keep clean, rather than waiting and letting it sit on where it's caked and it's dried and you're having to scrub it. We really ought to do a show on how to clean palettes. You know, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
I think we still have some around here, don't we?
We have plenty.
If not, I have some at home.
We have
that
plenty.
need to be cleaned badly, so, that haven't been cleaned for
Pallet horror
years. So,
stories.
yes. So yeah, so we may need to just do a show on that, so.
We've got watercolor, we've got acrylic, we've got wooden, we've got oil, we've got
Yes,
plenty.
there
Would
we
you
go.
use the same palette at different times for acrylic and like water mixable oil, or do you suggest just
No,
like
you need a
completely
plastic palette with acrylic, so, because then you can just let it dry and peel it off.
separate? Mhm.
Never use a wood palette with acrylic, because acrylic is plastic. That will soak in. You'll have to use razor blades and scrape what you can off, and then it's just going to be done. Never use wood. Always use plastic.
But could you
Or
use
palette
the same
paper.
plastic one for multiple ingredients?
Yeah, over time, though, oils discolor it because oils are very acidic, right? If you're going to use, I would use porcelain, but you have to clean it really well in between because you don't want to leave any residue. You know, plastic is still porous. So oil in that can soak down into some layers and then be there when you're putting acrylic on it, right? Palettes aren't that expensive, and if you're really worried about something that can work for both, just probably get palette paper. You know, because acrylic, you want something you can close up, mist and close up to keep if you've got to go make dinner or go walk the dog for a while or whatever. Because if it's not something you can cover, you're going to lose your paint. Right? Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of scrub this in there, even though we've got some green. I'll pop back in and okay, so mountains in back, similar to the hay color, but it's more of a sand. So let's put a little bit of this on here. I'm going to put a tiny touch of the brown, the darker brown, which is burnt umber, but I think it's actually a PR 101, which is an iron oxide red. So not the same pigment as it's usual in burnt umber. So in seeing this with a little bit of white makes it a little bit pinky. So I'm going to add just a touch more of that yellow ochre, and then put a little of this, white it out a little bit more. Put a little of that back in these hills here. See, that's too saturated in color, so I'm just going to put them on for now, but I will know to come back and lighten that to push it further back. Just get where I'm going to want those touches to be. Tina will have to clarify if this is the ski slope area that I've seen pictures of or not, because it almost looks like runs curved into the stuff further away, but I might be wrong. Since there's no snow, it's hard to tell. Okay. Has anybody come up with like the world's best ideas for how to save time for doing more art? Besides leaving your family and going and living in an artist colony, because you know we've all been there and thought that, so.
Every time you go on the workshop thing, I think you're not coming back.
Yeah, what? Because you're forever going to be like, freedom, run!
Yeah.
The thoughts crossed my mind. I've driven back wanting to cry. I don't want to go back. I just want to faint. And yet I still do. Still not light enough, so I definitely need some more white. Okay. Okay, so just working on these hills a little, and then we're going to come in with a little bit of green. Has anybody got any more questions while we're going? We've got about 15 more minutes, but I will finish this and put it in the group, the Facebook group. We don't get it all done, which...
Deb was wondering about the final quality of the painting. with water mixables versus traditionals, and if it retains the sheen.
Okay, good question on the sheen. This is still oil. Fundamentally, this is still oil. All that's been done to it is the oil has been modified, right, to be able to accept water for thinning. That's the only thing. It's going to use the same pigments overall, like with Holbein, it's their same paint as their regular paint. They just modify that oil in there, right? Otherwise it's the same dang oil paint as their other oil. Berlin, I think, is the exact same as well. They use the same pigments. So that's going to be the same regardless. Once it's dry, it's an oil painting. Sheen is a big thing because modifying and adding that surfactant, it tends, especially the more water you add, to look very matte. How can that be controlled? You can either add more oil as you're painting or do what? Varnish with something glossier that will bring that back to looking like a regular traditional oil paint. Nobody will ever know. And you know, they were talking in a group once before that I was in and talking about classifying your work. And when you're working with water mixable oils and you submit them to shows and all that, should there be kind of that truth in advertising? It's still oil. Don't tell people it's water mixable. Some people, especially people that are not educated consumers, might wonder what that means and might be worried that if something gets splashed on it, it could come pouring off the canvas, whatever. Unless you're there to take the time to educate your potential clients and you want to talk about that there's this new really modern awesome thing called water mixable oils, I would say don't bother, because there are some galleries that are run by older people that maybe are not, that's, you know, that water mixable oils may be the gimmick of what acrylics were in the 60s and 70s, right, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
Where people didn't want to show it because it seemed like it was just, you know, a plastic paint and why would you do that and blah, blah, blah. Just say it's an oil painting because it's an oil painting. It's an oil painting. Don't confuse. Consumers are so easily confused. Just go with oil and be done with it. Okay, this is our kind of moon portion. Now I'm just putting color in to fill that in. I'll come back in and control some of the kind of chroma of the color in just a little bit. Right now I just want to get that color in so you can see kind of where the track of this is.
So earlier someone was wondering, when you get to the clouds, because I don't feel like you're getting there in the next 10 minutes, will you leave white or will you do the values and then go back in with white?
I won't leave the bare paper. I don't ever leave bare canvas. The only way I would ever just leave something like that color would be if I have a colored ground on it. I won't leave.
So it's not like where watercolor, where what you want is to preserve
No.
the white?
No. I would paint it in.
Okay.
So, because probably what I'll do is build it up with some layers that are kind of glazed in, because some areas are kind of textured and then some are really smooth where it looks like it's heavier with rain, where it kind of gets that, you know how when it's got rain in it, it's either starting to rain or it's misting, it almost looks like somebody's taken a big brush and gone
Yeah.
kind of whipped it together. I want to keep that look in the cloud right over there, so I'll have to kind of,
They blurred it almost.
yes, very much so. Where kind of those thunderheads are big and crisp and still angry and high, and you know. Over here I'm just trying to get kind of this line in here where some of this ground is before that hay is. Always follow your kind of horizontal lines that you'll see, because that makes it flat and also helps push the distance backwards. I'm saying this like I know. I don't know. This is my second or third landscape ever, so. Well, that's the principle of it. That's what.
I was saying, it works the same way as other things work.
Yes. Make my own green. I'm not that wild on that phthalo. It's too blue-green, so we're going to kind of make our own.
Which of the sorry, I blanked for a moment. Our viewer on YouTube, Jana Bailey, is asking about artist grade water mixable oil paints. Can you tell us which brands?
We go over that in that show. They don't really make a student grade versus like Winsor Newton makes their artist brand, and then they make Cotman, and Cotman's obviously their student brand, right? All of the manufacturers state that their water mixable oils are the professional grade. Now, what does that mean to you? You're going to need to know a little bit about the brand itself and the quality overall of that particular brand. If you've tried their regular oils before, and you know you there's some kind of like already trust in what you like from them, the chances are going to be good that it's going to, you know, be a good quality professional brand. It's just like anything else. There's some brands that I prefer that other people might not like, and then there's other brands that, you know, other people like where I'm just like, oh my goodness, the painting looks like student grade paint, right? So watch that show. That's the best thing you can do, is kind of see for yourself what look of some of the different paints that you like the look of, and the colors and all that. I think that's the easier thing to say, because my opinion on having used them is very different than kind of personal taste, as it were. I mean, that episode was what, last year, Katie? I don't remember half of the brands we've used, and I know a couple of the brands I think have gone under since then. I don't think that Weber is making the W oil anymore.
2 years.
They're closing it. Has it been 2 years? Good God. Okay. But I don't think that the Weber oil is their W oil, that's out anymore. I know that I've seen the discontinue notice on it, and know that they're closing their lines. So I don't know when all of that will be done. But that's one thing I would caution you, if you see a line and they're going out of business, I wouldn't just use that to start with, because although you might get it at a great deal, you might find it and like it, and it paints very specific to that brand, and then you'll have problems, and then you won't be able to get it anymore, right? Or you know, you can't replace it. So I would say go with somebody that's in the fray of, you know, manufacturing it now. Alright, so there's a
How much of the current painting is still wet, or has any of it dried to the touch yet?
oil's not gonna have dry. It's quick drying, but it's not that quick. We've just been sitting here this whole time. Only that little, and it's still coming up, only that little stuff that I thinned out very fine, and this is, like I said, a paper surface, is for the most part dry, but that's soaked right in, right? All the rest of this, it's been less than an hour, folks. Quick drying means that maybe tomorrow it's going to be dry to the touch, for the most part, within 24 hours. It's not like a quick. Now, that being said, I will say that Lucas's old formula, if you use the quick dry and the old formula, which was very gummy, that's why they don't make it anymore, literally within an hour you could not, your palette, you had to scrape back down, because anywhere you put that quick dry and that was dry, and on your painting, as you're trying to paint kind of wet in less than that hour and blend colors, it would gum all up because that was drying too fast. So that being said, some of them used to not work well, but water mixable oils have been out for a long time now. They've been out, what? It's going on 10 years.
Yeah, at least.
So it's not just like, well, they're like, well, done, mic drop, we're successful, we made a water mixable oil. They're constantly, you know, changing formulas to make it better and better, just like some oil brands do for their traditional oils. You know, improving quality, improving, you know, medium, the flow, all of that. So that's not really I mean, that's a good question, because if you've not used it, you just don't know. But that's not, it's not going to dry that fast. Trust me. All right, I'm gonna start adding some white to some of this, and I'm putting some oil in so that it's nice and smooth and won't leave as much brush stroke. How are we doing on time, Katie? Are we getting close to where we?
You got about 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes, guys. Get any last questions that you might have in to the girls. Now I'm just putting that kind of up to that edge. I'm going to go back in and kind of dry brush some of that over to make that smoother there. This area I want a little bit of texture, so I'm gonna push some of that in. Okay, so what's been the real painting time that we've been doing this? We've been painting maybe
30 minutes?
Yeah. So, I mean, look how much I've been able to get done in 30 minutes. It's taking the time to do it and trying to fit it in to your day and having something that's portable enough where if the times that you've got to work are your lunch hour or whatever, you can take it with you. You know, if you want to go paint on your porch because you like to sit out there in the evenings, you know, because you maybe live in an area that doesn't have mosquitoes, which good for you if you do. You know, this little set could go out there with you rather than having to, you know, move a big easel out or things like that. Use those times that, you know, watching the Sunday morning news or something like that. Be unconventional to get your painting time in, your work time in. Okay, so now I'm going to start pulling a little bit of this blue over here. And just start kind of putting in there. Any other questions, ladies, that you guys have? Guessing that's a no.
He's a no.
Okay. All right. Well, so I will, Frida, before we leave, can I go stick this in the group real quick? Actually, I think I might have it on my phone, so I can stick it in the group. So if you're not, oh, that's a little dark. We'll come back and fix that in a minute. If you're not in Jerry's Facebook Live group, go to groups, look up Jerry's Live, pull that up. You have to answer the question. Do we still have a bunch of people that have not answered questions? Okay. So if you tried to get in the group before and you didn't, you probably didn't go and answer your question. So you're going to need to answer your question to get approved to be in the group. Then you can start posting. And you know what? If you're not comfortable with posting your work, it's fine to just sit back and look at the things that people are working on. Ask questions, make comments. You don't absolutely have to post. Not everybody's comfortable with that, and that's absolutely all right. So, but it's a good place to post stuff like anytime that we've finished artwork after the show, because an hour is just not time to get a lot done. So we'll post those after the fact in the group so that people can see the finished product. We post the pictures in if people want to do homework, like with drawing and things like that. So it's a good group to be in, even if you just want that kind of access and nothing more. So consider joining that. All right. So I could go on and on with this all day long. I'll come back and finish this later. Wow, that looks very different without my reading glasses. hopefully they haven't been able to hear the drumming of the rain on the
Making
reef.
me sleepy though.
I know, it is. It is. That and it seems very weird to paint without solvents, so I expect it to be kind of a little tangier smelling over here, and it's just not, so.
I can
Um,
smell it.
Of course, you guys
Surprise,
rub your nose.
surprise.
Well, I mean, I can smell it, but it's just not the smell that I associate with needing to work, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we'll get this picture up in the Jerry's Live group. Try to find some time in your day to fit a little bit of art in. Homework for next week, and I want everybody to try to do this. It's not something you're gonna have to do for art if you don't want to, but it's about monitoring your time and what you spend on it. Start keeping a little log in a notebook or in your phone in the notes or whatever on the times that you spend doing things during the day. Even if it's the dishes, take note. Just do it for a week. Trust me. You will find in there so much time where you realize you've just spent an hour and a half scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or things like that. Do that and then think about it and think about what if I took that time and focused on myself and my work instead, and then you can thank me for it later.
You mean I have to delete the games on my phone?
Yeah, you know what? I had to do that once when I was getting ready for a show. I did. So if everybody do that and then report back, we'll talk about it next week. So we'll post pictures tonight, and next week is color theory.
401.
So it's going to be kind of where do we go from here on this. So we will see you back for that then. Take care and have a great week.